So recently, I've been doing a lot of research, getting my information together as far as our tuning options for the 2025 and up Volkswagen GLI. Sometimes when you have a new year model, you have a facelift or a redesign, you can run into some challenges when it comes to just finding the aftermarket support as far as like performance software and tuning. So I went ahead and compiled some different options, want to present some information. We'll just kind of look at some pros and cons just to help you guys get started. If you're thinking about picking up one of these cars, just trying to figure out what your options are in terms of tuning and performance upgrades. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, firstly, it is important to keep in mind that all modifications, tuning, anything you're getting into as far as the aftermarket world with your car, there's always going to be some risk. Nothing is promised or guaranteed. Please bear in mind that some of these modifications, they may affect your vehicle's powertrain warranty. So please bear that in mind when looking at these different upgrades. All right, so let's get into a rundown here. Starting off, we have the classic JB1 and JB4 from Berger Motorsports. I'm sure you guys have seen these in the past. These are nothing new. They've been in the game for a long time. This is a common piggyback tuning option that is widely available on so many different platforms, whether it be Volkswagen, Audi, Nissan, Infiniti, BMW, so on and so forth. Just in case you're not familiar with the differences between the JB1 and the JB4, there's a lot of information. If you want to read a little bit more detail into that, there's probably some dedicated videos going into a little bit more explanation. But think of it as simple as this. The JB1 is a very basic piggyback plug and play module, whereas the JB4 is a bit more advanced. There's a little bit more customization. You can get a little bit more in depth as far as the amount of data you have access to. You can get into data logging, a little bit more customization. One thing to keep in mind though, the JB4 is a bit more involved as far as the installation. Now, for me specifically, within the context of having a brand new car, there's a couple things about the JB4 that I just personally wouldn't feel comfortable doing. That's just me though. If you have an older car, maybe this kind of stuff doesn't bother you. I'm just gonna show a couple clips like from a video. This is from a Mark 7 GTI JB4 installation video. He's lifting up that carpet there, getting into this like little grommet. This is down like where your feet would be, like near the pedals. So it's just a little bit more invasive as far as like getting all these different connections. You've got that OBD wire that you're going to have to get into the cabin of the vehicle. We are going to talk about some other piggyback modules that are a little bit less invasive, but I just want to showcase this real quick so you have an idea of what is to be expected. See this guy, he's got the diagonal cutters with a coat hanger. I mean, he's going all out here. I mean, just like look at all the hassle you have to go through to deal with all this. So yeah, all that work, we're bending, manipulating coat hangers to get this cable through the cabin. I mean, it's just a little bit more than I would be willing to do, again, on a brand new car myself. Sometimes too, the unit just looks a little clunky. I mean, just visually under the hood, I've always felt like it looks like a little bit of a rat's nest as far as just everything that goes in with all the connections and whatnot. You also have that AFR, the Posi Tap, which again, you can look at the installation guide here. Just something to be expected. So again, if you're thinking about JB1 versus JB4, just please bear in mind that the JB4 is going to be a bit more involved compared to the JB1. This might depend on your comfort level, your skill set, and what you feel good about doing or not doing. All right, so that's it for the JB1, JB4. Moving on to our next option, we're gonna be looking at the New Speed Power Module. Now, there is an older version that's been around for a number of years. They just released a new model for 2025. They're calling it the New Speed Power Module EVO. So this one is compatible, again, with the E8888 Gen 3 motors found in like, Mark 7, 7.5, or I guess they're calling it now the Mark 7.75 for the facelifted Volkswagen GLI for 2025. This one looks pretty straightforward. I do have the document here for the installation. And from what I gather, it seems to be a little bit more simplistic, not quite as invasive as some of the other ones that I've seen. But if you want to read along here, pretty much you have a tuning box and you've got these various like sensor connections. So nothing too crazy. I don't see anything that stands out to me that really throws up any red flags or anything. The actual unit itself looks a lot cleaner, a little more refined. So if you were to actually pop the hood, I would say it's just a little bit more simplistic. There's not as much of a rat's nest in there. Now, just from reading about this initially, I felt like everything is looking pretty good. I wanted a little bit more information, so I did reach out to New Speed. I spoke with a representative through email, and I wanted to get a little bit more details, just get a better understanding of everything going on here. Now, reading at the description, I see it says up to additional 75 horsepower, another 65 torque increase. I did ask the representative if they had any dyno graphs, or if you just get a little bit more context as far as, what map, what setting, what octane, so on and so forth. And I wasn't able to really get a whole lot more information. They didn't have any dyno graphs to share with me or anything like that. From there, the other thing that I feel could be an issue is the fact that this one does rely on a mobile application. If you go over, it looks like they're using this Tuning Pro app, which I believe has been used by other piggyback tuners that apply to various other vehicle platforms. Looking at the App Store here, it doesn't appear like they have the best reviews. Slide on down to the Apple Store, and they've got a pretty bad rating at around 2.4 out of 5. I'm seeing a lot of people are showing some frustration here. Looks like they're just either not getting their device recognized, they're having some pairing issues. Here's one right here. Title says it all. I'm having the same problems as everybody else. This app will not connect or validate the Newspeed power module to spend $600 on. We'll be contacting Newspeed for a fix. We got a guy is pretty frustrated. So, and that's just, again, not limited to this particular application. I'm seeing a lot of people are not too happy with this Tuning Pro app. So for me as a car enthusiast, look, I want nothing more than reliability. Of course, all modifications carry some risk, but if I want a turnkey solution, I'm not looking to get too deep in the trenches here as far as like troubleshooting and diagnostics. Look, I need this thing to work. I need to drive my car. What happens if you leave and you need to make an adjustment? It's like, oh, don't have my phone, or maybe the app crashed, or I can't get it to connect. So I'm a little bit disappointed about that. Again, I had a lot of hopes for this particular update with the EVO module. Again, I don't think the unit itself looks bad. I don't have a lot of trust in the app, unfortunately. So that's going to be a no for me. Now, as I always tell you guys on all my years of automotive videos as a car enthusiast, I'm not telling you what to do or what not to do. I just want to help guide you through the process here, look at some different options, weigh the pros and cons, and just kind of share my experiences. So I hope you guys find this information helpful, but ultimately just keep in mind the choice is yours. You decide what you want to do on your car. So moving on to our next option, we are looking at Racing Line. If you're a Volkswagen enthusiast, I'm sure that name is going to be familiar to you. They've always made a really high quality catalog of a lot of bolt-on accessories, like OEM plus upgrades, so on and so forth. Always a trusted name when it comes to upgrading your Volkswagen. So I went ahead and reached out to these guys directly through an email, try to get some information about any like tuning upgrades. They asked for my VIN. I provided them a little bit more information. They felt confidently that because of the similarities with the Mark 7, 7.5, with the GLI, that their IS-20 PCM module will work for the new GLIs. Looks like this one, they stated that they weren't able to sell this through like any dealers. In this particular instance, this would be the kind of thing that they would sell direct. So it is something that you could order directly through Racing Line. If you're in the US, you'd have to go direct. But it looks like probably the most refined, just clean setup as far as like a piggyback module. Very simplistic. You don't really have a lot of extra like clutter or like rat's nest, wires all over the place. The actual module itself visually to me looks the most high quality. I mean, everything looks super top notch as you would expect from Racing Line. Installation looks pretty straightforward. Something that stands out to me is on this particular upgrade with their module, they're not relying on any kind of mobile app. This is a simple one-time plug and play installation. So if you're looking at getting a little bit more power out of your car and you don't want to deal with a regular ECU flash, then this is probably also going to be a good option for you. So again, looking at our options between the JB1, the JB4, the Newspeed module, and Racing Line. If it were me personally on my car, if I was going with a piggyback module, I would say Racing Line all day. There's also is probably more on the expensive side, if I'm not mistaken, as far as US dollars, depending on the exchange rate, so on and so forth. I believe it's right around $800, $900, give or take. That price, of course, could change in the future, so don't hold me to that. But I would say definitely the more expensive end of the lineup for these different power modules. Now, let's get into what I would call your traditional, your ECU flash tunes, right? So we're talking like your APR Unitronic, IE, 034, all that kind of stuff. For me, I've always been either like a Unitronic or an APR guy. I've had that on a lot of different cars, the A3, the RS3, the S6, and I've always had great experiences with both companies. We have to understand that times are not as simple as they used to be. It's getting harder and harder to be able to flash these cars in this modern day and age with all the technological advancements. There's a lot of things they put into place to protect these vehicles. There's SFD, there's SFD2. I'll put it up on the screens if you want to read along just to get a better understanding of what that means. There is additional layers of security. So there's things that they put into place to prevent hackers from taking over these cars. As great as this technology is, it can definitely be a blessing as well as a curse for your modern day car enthusiast. So from what I gather, I did have a conversation with APR, and I did confirm that they actually have been able to tune some 2025 GLI models. Bear in mind, with ECU tuning, it's going to be dependent on ECU box codes. So you're not necessarily always going to be able to tune every single car just because it's, hey, this model year. That's not always going to be the case. Sometimes you can have different box codes. And if they don't have a specific ECU box code file, you may not be able to tune the car. Sometimes it might take time. There might be further developments. You might have to wait. You might have to put in a file request. When in doubt, I would say connect with your APR dealer just to get a little bit more information. Sometimes you can scan your own car, pull your ECU box code. I actually tried this, although my OBD11 dongle was the older version, so I was not actually able to connect to the most recent 2025 GLI. So I would say probably what you want to do is get with a shop, maybe a dealership, or if you have a connection somewhere in the automotive industry, if you can connect the car to VCDS or Otis, figure out your box code, connect with APR, figure out if they have a specific file for that box code. Then from there, what you would need to do is once you locate your APR dealer, I would then verify before you actually make the trip, find out if they in fact have the right scan tools to be able to do the SFD to unlock. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to flash the car because of the additional security measures they have in place on these vehicles. So that's our basic recap for today. I hope you guys find this information helpful. If you're a car enthusiast, you're trying to navigate, figure out what options are on the table here as far as upgrading your vehicle with performance software, piggyback modules, tuning, and so forth. Be sure to share your experience, your thoughts in the comment section down below. Curious to hear what you guys are running on your car. Let me know which one you went with, why, and how it's working for you. Hit the video with a thumbs up, subscribe for more. Stay tuned for future content. We've got a lot of projects coming up here very soon with the GLI. I'll be sure to see you guys on the next one. Have a great day.